Hey everyone, Alyssa here from the Crafting Hutch. I am going to share with you a Galactic pop-up card I made. So I'm just starting off here by making our Galactic background. I'm using a variety of distressed Oxide inks, mustard seed, peacock feather, seedless preserve, pickled raspberry, blueprint sketch, and then I am using chipped sapphire and black soot to really deepen up the background. I'm just going over the colors, putting them in kind of like sporadic places, and then deepening them up again with the black. I love using Distress Oxide because that you can blend on top of each other. As you notice that I got a little pickled raspberry or seedless preserve on my mustard seed, and I was able to blend that out no problem with a darker color, and it looks pretty great at the end. So I really love using this technique. Here you'll see that I'm just going to be using my metallic paint set that I have, and really wanted to emphasize like the stars and the galaxy. I really wanted to make it look like there was a lot. So you'll see me go in with my embossing heat tool, just so that way I can dry those layers to make sure that nothing kind of bleeds into the next. Everything kind of just stays on top of the paper. And I used a variety of like white. I used a little bit of like a gold shimmer, and I think I used like the iridescent shimmer. Here I am working on the background for the panel that's going to be the pop-up card. I kind of wanted it to be like a little texture, almost like a subway tile in a spaceship. So I'm using more Distress Oxide on Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm using the Speckled Egg Weather Wood for the top portion, and then I'm gonna go with Hickory Smoke to be the floor. And I'm using a 6x6 stencil from Kindred Stamps. And as you can see, the paper is larger than 6x6, so I'm just going to go ahead and move it and shift it down and continue on. The panel itself is going to be approximately 3x10. These are going to be cut down a little smaller to fit on each of the little rectangles that we have. And then here I'm just going to go ahead and place some more tape on top of kind of like the brick look there. So that way I can just go ahead and go over it with the Hickory Smoke. And here I am getting out my images that I want to use. I'm using Kindred Stamps images. I'm using the Galactic Fighter, the Galactic Sidekicks, and the Galactic Travel. I am placing my images on my stamping tool. That way I am able to stamp them if I don't get a good impression first time, to stamp them again. And I'm just moving them around so I can optimize the space on the paper, making sure that everyone will fit just fine. And then I am going to go ahead and pick up my Memento ink pad. And we're going to go ahead and just ink up the images. I'm going to use my little handy dandy presser tool from Kindred Stamps. And this is what I love about using a stamping platform is I didn't get all of the circle starship down there. But I was able to go back and ink up again. And I did this twice, just in case something happened to my first set of stamps. I always have make a backup of the stamp set, because you never know. You could have an ink blob or something. It doesn't turn out, or you cut it wrong. It's always good to have extra. And then they're going to be stamped for whenever I need them in the future. I'm taking my chamois and I'm just going to clean off the stamps real quick. Here we go to the fun part, which is the coloring, the best part. I'm going in with an E04 to start with my shadow, and then I'm following up with an E11. This part literally takes the most time, but it's so fun. Going in with an E21. I'm doing a 5 blend, color blend on the face, and this is an E00. And finally filling in the middle with an E000. And then I always go back and do it twice, and I usually forget my hands. So don't forget your hands or your ears. Those are the two things I tend to miss when I have to go back and color again. So I'm just making sure that those colors are blending out. Next, I'm going in with an R20, and I'm just going to add a little bit of blush to the cheeks, just a little bit. And then back in with that E000 to really blend it out. Next, I'm going to go with the hair, and we're doing E57. And I'm just doing flicks. I'm just giving them both the same color hair. And then this is the E35. And then E50. And again, I just go back through and re-add my flicks. I really like to go over it twice. Really helps the color blend together really nicely. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and work on the body. B29 for the blue B26, sorry. B26. I really like how he turned out. B24. He turned out pretty cool in my opinion. And then back in with the B29 just to add in those shadows back in. And then we're going to do some tonal grays for his boots. I'm doing E29 for his belt. E27 as well. And then a T7 for the belt on top on T5. And then we're going to do the cool tones for his gun there. Here, I'm going to go with my cool tones again and doing E1, E0, and then E00. And again, just going back over the colors. This is for his little pocket there. It's E18, and then E09. And then E35 and E33 for his boots. And then we're doing B26 for the saber. And then just E7 for the C7 and C5 for the handle. All right. Now we're moving on to this little trooper. I'm doing a bunch of cool tones again. A lot of the C's, C1, C5. I really wanted it to be just a smidge darker than that, so I go back in with a darker C5. I think I go back in with C5 just to darken it just a smidge. There's C9. And C7 and C5. This gentleman takes me quite a bit to figure out where to put the shadows on his body. I'm just using my cool tones to color him in. Alright, and now for this fella, we're going to go with the tonal grays. We're going to go with the T9. He too was difficult to color, to figure out where to put his shadows. We're working with, we just did a T7, now we're doing T5. And now we're going to T3. And then I decided to add some T9 back in to deepen it up a little bit. So I can use a whole range of tonal grays. And then here we go with T5. Just filling in the rest of his helmet and cape there. And then there's a T3, T1, and then going back over them again. Now we're going to do his saber. Right, now here we're just going to fussy cut all these out. I'm just putting a lightly thin line around the images. You just want to take your time with this, especially, and I know if you don't have a scan and cut, this can be very tedious, but I also like it too. You just put on something to watch and then have at it. He's my favorite that turned out in this whole set that I colored. I really like how his little outfit came together. I've colored all these images in the past, but I tried a new combination for that gentleman, and I really like it. Oh, and if you have a 2-inch punch, that spaceship print punches out perfectly, and you don't have to cut around it. And then the last one here. I'm just gently moving the paper as I go around those small images, like corners. All right, now here we're going to go ahead and make the mechanism. The mechanism is going to measure 3 by 8. And this, I'm just making the base of my card. So this is the front base. And this is the mechanism here. I'm going to use my cutter to actually look to see where to put those little dots. to help me line up where we're gonna score. So the dots go at 2.5 and 5.5, and then you just flip it diagonally and you score. And then you score down the middle at 3 inches. And that's how to get that mechanism. Then you want to fold up, and then kind of like pinch it to go in. And make sure you use a good bone folder to fold it too. And then here, this is where the panels are going to sit. That is measuring the 3x10 panel. And it's scored at 2 and 2.5, 5 and 7.5. Now we're just going ahead and I'm going to put a sentiment on the front using Kindred Stamps Galactic Travel. And then that is just a stitch rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Kindred Stamps, the card die set, and just do a stitched image on my Galactic background. And I didn't really like the stark white, so I just went over it with some of the hickory that was left on the brush. And then we're going to put dimensionals on it. You want to make sure that you put your front together, and if you're doing any inside panels like I am, you want to make sure you adhere that to the card before you add your pop-up mechanism. And here I'm just using a little bit of the Kindred Stamps glue to put on there, and then I'm going to attach it to the card base with some tear and tape because I don't really want it to go anywhere. And that tape is from scrapbook.com. And here are my inside panels that are going to go on the card. And next we're going to put the mechanism down. So I'm going to use some of the score tape there. I got this score tape from Amazon. And I am just laying it down on one side and then folding it in. So that's the mechanism there. And then here we need to add our little panels that we did earlier to the pop-up feature. So I'm just gluing them on to a mat around them. And those panels end up being 2 1/8 by 2 7/8. And then I cut down our little scene there to 2 by 2 3/4. And now I'm just gluing our little people onto the panels, and then putting them onto the pop-up mechanism before we attach the pop-up mechanism to the mechanism. And again, I used the tear and tape to put them on because I knew that it was going to be a lot of movement. A lot of people were going to be opening and closing the card. So I wanted to make sure that it really stayed adhered to the mechanism. And then this is where I'm putting some thick score tape just on two sides, one on the top right and one on the bottom left. And this is what's going to give the mechanism the pop. And then I'm just adding a little bit of our extra starships there. To the galaxy. And I do end up, you'll see here, cutting a piece of white and running it through my diamond press machine to make a place to write the words. And I put that on the back. I ended up writing my note before I adhered it to the back of my card, and that's what where I put it instead of putting it on the front. You could definitely put the panel on in the inside of the card, but I really wanted to capture the galaxy all around, so I just stuck it on the back. And here's the final card of the Galactic pop-up card. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.